Hey guys, I'm Jeremy, and I figured I'd tell you about an awesome hike I did a couple weeks ago in July up to Rollins Pass. There's actually a few different names of this hike because it connects to several different hikes, but this is definitely the nicest hike I've done within a couple hours of Denver. On this hike you see 14 lakes right up from the Continental Divide looking down, so super pretty. I've actually hiked up to a lot of those lakes, but I'd never gone above the lakes to look down, and you're just on that Continental Divide for about 10 miles checking out these awesome views of not just the lakes, but then on the other side you've got like Winter Park on the west side, so super cool hike. The only bad thing about this hike is that regardless if you go clockwise or counterclockwise, after about 5 miles or so, you're kind of getting above tree line, and then you're up on the Continental Divide Ridge there, which is super windy. And so it's generally better to camp, you know, like around trees. So you could either do the 5 miles on either side and then go up onto the ridge. But that problem is that your second day, you've got like a 12-mile hike, which is what we did. We did counterclockwise up towards right before the tunnel. Because back in the day, the Rollins Pass was the old railroad, so you could actually camp up on there right before that tunnel, and that's a great spot. It's just next to where the tree line's kind of dissipating, but then the next day you have 12 miles. On the other side, if you want to do it a few more miles, you're up on the ridge, but you could walk down a bit for maybe like 25 minutes and get down to tree line on the other side where Winter Park is. And you might be able to find some trees or some camping down on that side. So I think maybe next time, as much as I love that view I had, I might just do at least 8 miles and maybe just camp on the other side, because 12 miles on the second day, even if your pack's a bit lighter after you had some food and a couple drinks, like it was still kind of tough. I know my buddy was definitely having a rough time. And it's cool too because you also do get a taste of what the Continental Divide Trail is like, and I'll tell you, it's pretty windy. I don't know if I'd want to do that for like a few months. I did see a couple people that we passed on the way, and they mentioned it was like several days of like crazy wind and pretty intense. If you ever consider doing a long hiking trail, I would always go out for like 2 or 3 days and check it out first, because you might think it might be easier than it actually is. And then you also have to consider that you want to get off that ridge in case there's any thunderstorms, right? And that usually happens in like the mid-afternoon, let's say 1, 2, 3 o'clock. So you might want to get up pretty early to get through that section that takes like 3 hours or so before you get back down to tree line. Make sure you have some bug spray too. It was a little rough with the bugs up there. I could have definitely used some stronger spray. Any of the areas around any creeks or anything were like mosquito crazy in July, so just keep that in mind. There's also a lot of history up there because that was the old original railroad before they made Moffett Tunnel, which was basically the tunnel that would go through the Continental Divide. So they made this in like, I don't know, the 1880s or something. And the train's up on the top at Rollins Pass. So it was actually like a little town there, and they'd keep the trains inside a building so things wouldn't freeze. And then they had workers up there trying to remove the snow in winter, and so they tried to operate it all year. I'm sure in general, those 2 or 3 months where they probably didn't do much. And that tunnel that I mentioned that's right before you get to the pass is crazy because gunpowder keg actually exploded by accident and 70 Swedes died. So it's just crazy how these people work so hard to get a railroad up there, which they probably only used for like 20, 30 years. And so many people died, trying to get these things together. So it's cool that you get the amazing views, you've got the history up there, and it's super close to Denver. And you also don't really need all the permits and things like a lot of the other areas. I'm not sure why you need less permits in that area. Maybe because it is the James Peak Wilderness, and then just above there is the Indian Peaks Wilderness. And it seems like in that Indian Peaks area, like if you go to the Bernard Lake and some of those areas, you need to have permits. It's got a huge parking lot there too, so certain other hikes, you might need a shuttle to get in, but that parking lot's pretty huge. So I think year-round you should be able to do the various hikes around there. There's also nice hikes up to Crater Lakes, which I've done a few times, and a bunch of other areas. So I definitely check out that James Peak Wilderness. I think that's one of my favorites. It was one of the first hikes I did when I came out here last August. So definitely check it out if you're up in Boulder or Denver.